thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, Prime Minister Davis telling the Ministry of Social Services the focus should be on people over buildings. We'll tell you the reason behind these comments today. Also tonight, teachers voicing off on the Ministry of Education's plans to recruit teachers from across the Atlantic and Canada. And so, what are they saying? Meanwhile, tonight, a woman assaulted after rendering assistance to a group of men in her business. Wait until you hear this story. And in our Week in Review segment, Davis and Pintard go head-to-head in the House of Assembly this week. The two comparing notes and performance in their elected areas. And so, who do you think was more convincing? This is Beyond the Headlines, Week in Review Fridays. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, Prime Minister Davis, the keynote speaker at the official opening of a new Ministry of Social Services headquarters that happened, of course, this morning. But it's what the Prime Minister had to say, or what his comments involved and included, is what has many people talking. And that is that the Ministry of Social Services, with so much in hand and tasked with so much, must begin not becoming so comfortable in their air-conditioned offices and nice plush headquarters, but begin reaching out to the people who need it most and put people over buildings.
I could care less about the paint on the walls or the size of the conference room. What I care about, what I would always care about, is how we treat people who come into this room. Our solemn duty to help those who need it most, to go the extra mile, to open every door, to exhaust every resource. If it means cutting red tape, then let us cut it. If it means finding $1 more, then let's find it. You know, I would rather our government do too much for someone in need than to be remembered for doing too little. When you walk into the Department of Social Services, you should be met with respect, not suspicion, with warmth.
Well, I'll tell you this, so many people are obviously happy to hear that charge issued from Prime Minister Davis today, because if you hear the stories, there's still so much. And I'm not even going to go on the areas of like child abuse, and because you saw last week the Ministry of Social Services appeared on this very show, and they talked about the child prostitution, for example, that's happening in the Bahamas. And so there's so much going on, but let's just stick with the people who are vulnerable and in need, those who are needing assistance and looking for whatever that assistance is, rental, perhaps to have food on the table for their kids. Many of those people are still slipping through the cracks. And this is what the Prime Minister is saying to the officials at the Ministry and Department of Social Services. By the way, he did applaud the work of social workers, but he's saying, listen, you all, put some fire under what it is you're doing, because those people, there are many people out there that still need the ministry's attention and help. And so we're going to start right there this evening. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. Beyond the Headlines contributors, Leslie Miller and Michael Turnquist. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas.
Yeah, it's good to have you both here. Good to see you both. And of course, I'm so excited about another Week in Review Fridays. And so let's go. Some, of course, the stories that happened earlier today, but we, of course, have our review segment coming up. But gentlemen, the Prime Minister is saying, and listen, the time couldn't have come at a better time. Listen, you all, while the building is good, and we know social services needs its own attention and obviously they need to work in comfortable surroundings as well, but he's saying don't get caught up in this building, because this building really need to represent the amount of people being helped and served. Your thoughts?
Well, Shanique, I'm happy to see that, I guess the shift in terms of, focusing on the people. We've said over and over repeatedly that, there are a lot of people hurting in the Bahamas. We talk about, the increased inflation and things, whatever have increased across the board. We even look at the other day, I saw in the headline somewhere in terms of, last year people were actually overpricing in food stores and different areas.
Yeah,
This is what affects persons, throughout the communities that we frequent, and all of this is what puts burden on the shoulders of the Bahamian people, especially when persons are not actually doing their jobs and going out rather than sitting behind their plush desks. When we have so many out there hurting repeatedly over and over, people need to get out their chairs, get out there in the streets of the Bahamas to really see what's happening to Bahamians. At the end of the day, everyone has to try and do their part, but at the end of the day, we employ, whether it be social services, whether it be, price control, to go out there and continuously do their job to ensure that Bahamians are getting the help that is needed, throughout the land of the Bahamas. We know it's election time coming up, so of course, we hope this is just not a ploy that whereas though, hey, we're doing for the people. This needs to start in any government, whether from start to
Priority
end.
From day one, yes.
Priority from day one, the people, not like it's not buildings, the people every day. It's happy to hear, but at the end of the day, this is something that should have been, day one to the end of whatever government's term.
No, the Prime Minister is no doubt aware of some of the problems that many Bahamians face in our country. On the part of the who know what's going on the ground, would be very concerned. The new office that was opened today, it's a good thing. It's going to service people in that part of the New Providence that is really needed in the south, the deep south, that is needed. But the most important thing, as he said, is the service that is given to those people who you don't reach. Those who are hurting, that you need to do more to assist the poor, to bring them in line, to give them a halfway decent life for whatever you can do for them, you do. Because I know in many cases when I was a member of Parliament, many times you would have people from social services go and assess the person's home. Say your husband just died a few months ago and they live in a martyr's home, and if the person
And they feel the people don't need it. Isn't that like, how could you? And I know somebody may show up, someone may show up looking different than you expect the regular person to show up looking, but do not dismiss these people saying they don't need the help.
And that's very important. I want to tell you, I have some experience in that. Yeah. The lady would go there and say, well, Mr. Miller, this live in this nice house, she got a car in the yard, the living room is nice, the kitchen. What's the problem? I said, well, husband just died a few months ago. She has no children, or the child is in there to live in the States. And they just, for the life of me, couldn't figure out that this person had a need because the type of house they live in, and that they had a car. I think the Prime Minister is trying to instill in them that, listen, you have a job to do.
Reach every individual
and
where they are.
And reach those who are in need. And I applaud him for that. And they need to do more, because plenty of people, like I told you last week, the lady I met in one of the fast food restaurants with 2 kids, and she's pregnant now. And most nights she sleeps in the car. And had the children go to bed at her sister's home. Those things, and they'd look at her. I realize now, believe me, she was on welfare for a while. They gave her a job, but she's still hurting. Now, I tend to blame, like all of us, the neglectful fathers that has those 2 kids with her that wouldn't do anything. It reminds me of example for the lady whose son died, God bless him, the little boy who got killed day before yesterday through Baintown. You're not aware of that?
I don't.
And 3 children in the hospital now with severe burns.
Oh yes,
About
I
their
did hear
bodies.
for that. The fire.
The fire.
The fire. Well, I took time
and one of them passed away.
I went and I met the mother.
Yeah. Okay.
And she explained to me, Mr. Miller, what happened. I left my 3 children
She went
here
to social services, yes.
to go to social services. I left a friend of mine or aunt there, and I told him just to look after them. I'll be right back. The aunt was taking some medication. The aunt dropped asleep. They then went into the home, the Grammy home, and they was playing with this lighter that normally it's a small stove really. And the little kid just being curious, Continued to play with it, and it exploded.
My God.
And that's how he died. And the two other kids in the hospital severely burned. You know, and she is hurt now because people are now blaming her. What happened to her son, who's 5 years old? She has two twins, daughters that are 2 years old, and another little son that is 1 year old. And she's out there now, really painful. She needs a regular job to enable her. She says she's hoping to go on one of the family islands.
She's a single mother.
She's a single mother.
And this is another thing.
But fortunately for her, and I applaud her for this,
yes.
her 3 children is for one man.
Well, that's good. So
And that don't happen in this country.
Where's the man?
He's in Andrews working. And she asked him if he could take 2 of the kids before this happened and let her keep 2.
Does he take care of the family, though?
He helps now and then, but him being a regular fella, I'm on the construction. You know, they go from place to place.
Yeah, but they
They're
make
the
money,
most
though.
reliable
They
in the
make money
world.
from
But,
that place to place.
and so the other, we spoke about this, I guess, sometime early in the week. But and ever since that story, I've seen it over and over. Whereas though you've seen young mothers, whether it be sometimes midnight, they're walking the streets with a young child, lifting,
Yes.
and I always think back, where, like you said, where are the fathers? Because at the end of the day, I strongly believe any man who procreate and have a child with a woman should make sure, I don't care what it is, make sure provide, make sure the mother of your child or your child is not walking the streets at night.
And taking care of.
Making sure they're taken care of, whether you're to get a taxi to move them back and forth. I mean, this is where it's so. It hurts because you saw the high school graduation the other day.
You saw that fight, eh?
Parents doing foolishness. I mean, to me, man has to get, the fathers have to get involved.
You've lost your way. And men, listen, if you're not going to be around or can't afford it,
Don't make babies, yeah?
Stop
It's-
sipping
it's-
your
it
hands
make
down.
babies.
It breaks,
Sorry.
it breaks my heart to see what continues to happen in this country, whereas though men are just going around thinking it's cool to just have a bunch of kids all over the place.
That's 70% of them, by the way.
Yeah, and
At least 70%.
and don't take care.
And neglectful fathers. I think we need to have some stiffer penalties in the laws that, giving a kid $50 a week just ain't gonna do it. And you miss 3 weeks out of 4. And then the poor lady got to go back to court
Yeah.
and stay there the whole day. Nobody keep the children at home. It's ridiculous, man. We got to do better. Fellas, you're embarrassing us,
And
man.
listen, procreate
Really embarrassing us.
procreate wisely. Choose who you're going to lay and play with, because out of that comes children. You know what I mean? And I don't want to sound harsh or insensitive, but you've got to now begin thinking of you first.
Yeah, it's a
and
fact of life.
possibly
The child.
people, yes, the
But
children you will
but
bring into the
Shanique,
world.
sometimes you have a lot of these young women. Yes, they're only thinking of themselves. They don't think about the child.
No.
They don't think sometimes how this affects the child. How do they feed this child every day? Or especially having a child for 3-4 different men.
That's the
They're just
problem.
trying, at the end of the day, some of these women only trying to either pay their rent, or some of them get their nails
Legal
done,
car
get
payment,
their
the
hair
nails and the
done.
hair,
And so, at the end of the day, it all boils down to, where the homes that they came
responsible.
from, and just being responsible and education.
Man, you can change your story, though.
Doing the right
That's
thing.
as simple as that. Guys, the Bahamas Union of Teachers, the Bahamas Educational Managerial Union, and others are speaking out on the Ministry of Education's push to recruit teachers from Ghana, Canada, and the United Kingdom. You all remember that this is because the Ministry of Education, in particular, is moving away from the Cuban teachers after that controversy with pay and slave
Yeah,
labor
put
and
a
all the
little
rest of
pressure.
it, right? And so Stephen McPhee, president of BAMU, says the ministry should look at the region instead. We get the story from Janelle Longley and then come back and talk about it.
Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson suggesting that government's decision to look to countries like the United Kingdom, Ghana, and Canada to fill teaching voids left by Cuban educators may be outside of our price range, revealing that government only signed off on salary increases to the tune of just over $28,000 from the starting salary of just over $25,000, and the highest paid offering $43,000.
So I wonder which teachers are going to leave the United States, where their salaries range from $42,000 to $71,000 per year, with the average teacher's salary of $63,000. And Canada's salaries range from $53,000 to $95,000 per year, with an average salary of $69,000.
The United States investigations into alleged labor abuse have seemingly forced the government's hand, and they've canceled all contracts for those employed. The announcements being made in Parliament just this week. The teachers' union president suggests, however, that the decision was made long before the announcement came out.
Recruitment exercise where a Bahamian delegation travels to Cuba was canceled April and May of this year, 2025.
While Stephen McPhee, president of the Bahamas Educators Managerial Union, who also serves on a Caribbean Educators Union, believes that the price tag of said countries may be a strain on the public purse, he suggests that government should consider looking within the region. While the Bahamas has not signed on to the Caribbean free movement trade that allows Caribbean professionals to work within member countries with ease, he says the idea may be worth exploring.
In terms of salary base and benefits, pound for pound, we in the Caribbean, we sit on top of the others.
Now, year after year, hundreds graduate from the University of the Bahamas, and among those students are those who get grants from government to study education. McPhee says government should consider engaging those individuals to help out in the areas of special education, technical courses, and the sciences.
Also, pulled it now. A large number of them who've been probably sitting home unemployed citizens are going to now have the opportunity to be employed to fill the various voids.
The graduates from the University of the Bahamas, we have interviewed them already. They are our prospective hirees, although we do not go to our CARICOM partners. That's our agreement. And we're looking to fill those posts also with those persons who would have retired.
Janelle Longley, Eyewitness News.
And so there you have it. You all know that is a major deal. It was Marco Rubio who really, as Secretary of State, United States, said, listen, this really is akin to slave labor. These people are not being paid what it is that you think you're paying them. So, of course, the Bahamas then subsequently revised all of it and investigated. So now the Ministry of Health, as you all know, is pausing it. Yeah. But they will re-engage the health professionals, hopefully they're saying, and then pay them directly. But what the Ministry of Education has decided to do, it appears, is leave it alone entirely and go looking elsewhere. Now, of course, you all heard the president of Bahamas Educational Managerial Union, for example, say, why not look in the region? Thoughts?
So, Shanique, I mean, I believe our school system needs some fresh air. It needs. We've seen. We have a lot of hardworking teachers that go there every day and put their all into these kids. At the end of the day, we have kids that come to schools where as though, we don't know their past, their background, what the home situation is that cause a lot of issues. But at the end of the day, we do have some teachers that I think that do not belong in the system.
Don't.
That's true.
So we need some fresh. Some fresh blood,
fresh eyes, fresh perspectives,
and a whole new outlook
right.
in terms of
You're
could we do with problematic children rather than just turning a blind eye to them and allowing them to do. There might be some teachers or in some other parts of the world might know exactly what the solution is or help in terms of bringing some type of
some experience in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing. I think we should welcome it. I don't care where they're from.
Where they're from.
Once they speak English. And they can actually put their 200% into a child in terms of, hey, if every time every teacher thinks if we save one, we'll be heading in the right direction.
That's so true. And sometimes you need, we talk about even with crime, you need foreign eyes. Well, education is a good idea as well, foreign eyes. Leslie?
Listen, all of my life growing up as a youngster through McCullough Corner and Pinedale, many of our teachers were foreign teachers,
Yeah.
Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad,
Canadian.
Antigua, a lot comes from Guyana. That's still the norm now in the school system. We had some from Canada, very few from the United States, and the reason being from the United States and Canada, the salaries here were so much lower than those two countries. Unless you were going to pay room and board for those teachers that you need, there was a problem. But I think we should recruit most of our teachers from the region, but you also need that element, that international flavor to come to the Bahamas to give you that mix, because they're the people you're going to be facing every day in your life. Yes. You go to Miami, you travel a lot. So, and they bring in their culture, they bring in their view as to how things are different and how their society and how they cope with kids that may have problems. I don't see anything wrong with it. You know, just get them in here and get it done because school is going to open in September. So we need them now.
August, September,
Okay.
so they need to come now.
We needed them 10
Don't
years ago.
hesitate.
We need to get it right to try
And make sure we have
and
enough,
improve
especially
this-
on the family average.
this
Remember,
GPA. No,
most of last year we didn't have enough,
the
you remember?
shortages, exactly. So
Okay.
now remedy that, man. Let's
Yeah.
get these people in here, okay? Beyond the Headlines is back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Pull up a chair. Right after the break, we'll continue with Week in Review Fridays.
What you doing, man?
I'm getting ready for this heat, boy. But you want to see what's in this box? The ghost pepper chicken sandwich, boy. Get an apple pie, fries, and ghost pepper chicken wing. You see it? You look at me? Four. Yeah, boy.
Try our new Ghost Pepper Chicken Box today. Available for a limited time only.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
We're back! Playhouse and Sound Investment presents your Back to the 90s Volume 11, July 12th at Breezers. From Volume 1 to Volume 10, Playhouse brings to you the most anticipated Back to the 90s party yet. July 12th at Breezers. Party with some of your favorite Playhouse DJs, Big L, AI, Pressure, alongside Extra Large and DJ Tank with special guest DJs like Tiny. Hosted by yours truly, Joe Cools, and my brother, DJ Bravo. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Rock the night away with Reggie Stepper. Performing live, Kimbo King, modeling, and so much more. Early bird tickets are limited. Get yours today. Tickets available. Cash and Go, Tropics, On the Bay, and any of your favorite Playhouse DJs. For tables or Skybox, contacts 819-2900. Playhouse, Back to the 90s. Sponsored by Sound Investment, Guinness, Hennessy, Paradise Games, Tropics on the Bay, Cash and Go, and Alive.
7.5 years, but I walk in here all of a sudden, total stranger. I'm calling you Rick and Sheila. Like,
Hey, Ben.
At Island Lock, we take sports seriously. Get ready to experience the thrill of winning anytime and any place. Bet in real time and live the thrill of every play while watching your winnings stack up. It's your chance to score big with fast payouts and a world-class experience. Get in the game and bet the Bahamian way with Island Luck Sportsbook.
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Well, get this, you all. A woman who reportedly tried to help 3 men at a marina on East Bay Street was allegedly kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and thrown from a vehicle by the very men she sought to assist. Yeah, it happened this week. Police say the incident unfolded around 1 o'clock on Wednesday. The woman was at the marina when the men allegedly asked for help. Yeah, around 1 in the afternoon. When she was approached, they allegedly forced her into a black Japanese vehicle, allegedly sexually assaulted her, then pushed her from the car before fleeing in an unknown direction. We get the story from Linton Ritchie Jr.
I didn't hear about it.
What would you say to those 3 men who lured her into that?
Young men are not often trained. It's serious times we're living in.
Emotional and physical trauma. That's now the reality for a woman who thought she was simply performing an act of kindness. Police say 3 men asked her for help while at a marina on East Bay Street, but that request turned into a nightmare. The woman was allegedly forced into a vehicle and allegedly sexually assaulted. Eyewitness News took to the streets where residents shared their outrage and sadness.
That could have been their mother, their sister, their daughter. Come on. I'm sorry that they think that badly of a young lady.
With this heinous attack happening in broad daylight, women say it only confirms their biggest fear: safety is never guaranteed.
It makes you afraid to do just simple activities like me walking to the store, God forbid. You know, I would hate to believe. But then she was just trying to do a good deed.
This latest case comes amid a string of sex-based offenses, including a 36-year-old man charged this month with indecent assault and attempted sexual intercourse, and another man in Abaco accused of breaking into a woman's home and attempting to sexually assault her. Some residents say the penalties don't fit the crime.
I believe the government needs to tighten up and pull up their socks more or less. It's getting worse, and a strong message needs to be sent. That's what I feel.
And while some would argue that the woman should be more careful, those on our social media platform admonish those who victim blame. Some said that, quote, sick dogs, that's someone's daughter, mother, and sister. To the misogynistic victim blamers on this thread, why are you cascading the woman and not ranting and howling to the moon about those men who attacked her? Another person writing, why is everyone talking about the ones who didn't commit the crime? Y'all are sick-minded. Meanwhile, police say the men in this most recent case pushed the woman from the vehicle before speeding off. A manhunt is now underway. Linton Ritchie Jr., Eyewitness News.
Well, I tell you, it's just, it doesn't pay to be nice. Particularly when you're going to be out in public and speaking with strangers, women, even men who give the pretense of wanting assistance or something. Just listen, I say ignore, gentlemen. I say ignore, move on. But, let's hear the opinions and thoughts of Leslie Miller and Michael Turnquest, bringing them back in here in the discussion. Your thoughts about just how ugly that was?
Shanique, this is where, we speak about all the time in terms of, the legislation, in terms of as it relates to where there be sexual assaults and things of that sort, whereas that we need to really put real penalties.
Yes,
I don't care, maybe we need to pull back on the cat o' nine tail, put them out there in Rawson Square, and I talking about tear them up. Because it's clearly, and this is what causes the issues, the social issues that we continue to have in this country. Because at the end of the day, you have a young lady trying to give assistance. This is where we say, okay, we want the village to come out and help. And this is why the village is not doing, the community is not doing what because they're afraid. For these same type of acts that continue to take place on citizens who think let me help these young men who seem as though they're either lost or something of that sort. This is something where the government needs to go in and, put in, the laws are there. We continue to say the laws are there, but rape, lost, you should be lost in prison. First of all, you should get beat in Rawson Square, and if you ever do come out of Fox Hill,
that part,
you need for a life depending on what it is you do, you need to be monitored. You need to go in a little area all by yourself. You should not be around, especially those who continue to. We have persons who do this. That's what they do for a living.
Over and over again.
Over and over again, but they
can't. The last fellow used to do it all the time.
No.
That one who was mess with the woman all the time. That's psycho. Remember who went to Andrews and they.
Yeah, but this is where we got to do something. It's I'm saddened to hear, that something like this would happen. I have nieces. Who would maybe try to render assistance where whoever it might be. But this is where we have this disconnect in our social community where persons are now, rather than we saying good morning, we become like New Yorkers. We become rude, stiff, and we don't want to. We don't socialize anymore. And this is what is causing the social ills that we have in this small little country. What one time ago, back in the 80s, 90s, everybody said hi, everybody tried to help. People pulled on the side of the road.
Friendly little country.
And help with flat tires. Now you see women, even men are scared to stop and help women on the side of the road when they're broken down.
Yeah.
You saw the other day we had the young lady who was wanted for murder. We have the social element of our little country is withering away, and to me, it's almost gone.
It is so disheartening that a lady tried to assist 3 men who were already running a game on her, and then drove her wherever they drove her, raped her, and then threw the car. She could have been dead. They have no conscience. They have no humanity, and that's what we have in our society. I trust that the police would catch them soon. And what has to be done, man. The law's got to be enforced to the fullest extent. We can't be playing these type of games. That's a mother. That's a sister. When is it going to stop? We got to stop it as Bahamians, all of us got to come together and say enough is enough. Or make it take it no more. Something has to be done. Feel so sorry for that lady, you know? And her family members too.
It's very unfortunate.
Her family members, you know?
Well, gentlemen, as you all know, the political season is certainly, we are in the middle of it, right? It is progressing, but bits had started. So a verbal showdown took place in Parliament this week. You all know, of course, the budget wrapped up. I think it was yesterday the Prime Minister wrapped it up. And this verbal spat, well, there were many, but it was between Prime Minister Davis and Opposition Leader Michael Pintard. The men clashed over each other's political performance and posing the question, who should lead the country following the upcoming general election? We get this story from Linton Ritchie, and then I want to hear your thoughts. Take a look.
Member of Parliament for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador could not put potable water or lay pipes in Cat Island.
Opposition Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard igniting a flame in the lower chamber Wednesday evening as he fired at Prime Minister Philip Davis, criticizing the nation's chief for what he deems a lackadaisical approach in his constituency of Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador. Pintard asking, could the country afford another term under Davis's leadership? However, the nation's chief did not back down. He immediately sought to set the record straight.
When Brave Davis lay pipe, he spent his own money. You don't use the corporation money.
His response, however, resulting in a tit-for-tat between the two, with Pintard putting Davis's commitments to the electorate under a microscope. Pintard emphasizing that from his view, some of those elected under the Davis administration have done more as a newcomer to politics than their leader. Davis, however, debunking the claims made against him, outlining his resume and hinted at his victory over Pintard's former challenge.
I was re-elected. People in Cat Island are wise people. Yes, that's why they rejected you.
And under a Pintard-led government, he says the promise is to bring hope to the islands he believes were neglected by its representative.
He's failed to create an economy that they can imagine a future there.
Linton Ritchie Jr., Eyewitness News.
Well, Pintard says Davis in Cat Island has failed to create an economy where they can imagine a future. Now, of course, we discussed this story before. It's Week in Review, so we bring the biggest, more interesting stories on Fridays to just sort of give an overview once more and perhaps more in-depth analysis. And so, gentlemen, when we discussed this earlier this week, Wednesday, people were saying, but wait a minute, there's a lot happening in Cat Island right now. I mean, but your thoughts on what's going on between the Prime Minister Davis and Opposition Leader Pintard?
I mean, Shanique, you have two, you have one person that's the leader of the opposition and who was a minister at one point, and you have the sitting Prime Minister who, I think he has the power right now. Anything that he put to paper, it happens. At the end of the day, we still have the Bahamas in general is still faced with crisis as it relates to our people. The Prime Minister spoke with the social ills. At the end of the day, things happen in the House, but we still have people in our country that are suffering. And I think any government, I don't care whether it's the FNM, the PLP, the COI, the focus should always be people. At the end of the day, they can everybody that sits in the House, they have their homes and they're sitting, lights are on, things of that sort. At the end of the day, it should always be about the people. And right now, the Prime Minister has the power to make anything happen. We go back to talking about crime, we're talking about certain things. And this is the focus to me. And I don't want to get into the back and forth in terms of I want to focus on the people and what can we do to make our lives, that being walking on the streets, or putting food on people's tables, in terms of making it better. And I think that's where the focus should be, rather than, we watch I call it the Hollywood of the Bahamas in terms of, what happens in Parliament. But at the end of the day, the focus should always be on the people of the Bahamas, making sure I want to walk anywhere on the street of Bahamas and feel safe. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to watch my brothers and sisters amongst me, whether they're in Angleston or whatever it might be, and not have to come around and beg, and make sure that they can feed their families, and not have to watch our young women prostitute their children in the Bahamas, which is another, is another big, griping issue that is happening, but we turn a blind eye to it. So, that's my thoughts on, what happens, I call it, inside in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's so dramatic, the leader of the opposition being an actor himself. Mr. Davis is right now completing the airport in Cat Island. The roads are being paved, but he's not the type of person who's going to put all the emphasis on his constituency. The Bahamas is an archipelago of some 700 islands. You got about 18 main islands with men and women representing those areas, especially New Providence, where most of the work needs to be done on some of the major family islands. So he will not try to banner the work in his constituency to the detriment of his colleagues on both sides of the island. I think it's just petty politics, but the leader opposition saying what you should do. I was in his area a few months ago, and his constituency is pretty ugly right now too, with some of the things that should have happened after the hurricane that are still not there. That you have thatched roofs all around the place. He was there as a minister. It looked like he did a hell of a lot for his constituency that he represented for the last 10 years, but almost 15 years now. But again, this is just tit for tat. I really don't have time for those type of games. It doesn't help anybody, as far as I'm concerned. As my good buddy Mike say, it's for the people. And if you're not dealing with the people and advancing their welfare, I don't really want to hear it.
Well, speaking of the people, certainly, of course, whose record on housing is best came up. A war of words, again, brewing over the country's housing strategy after Housing Minister Keith Bell criticized the former F&M administration for what he described as a complete failure to deliver homes for the Bahamian people. Former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis pushed back. We get the story from Delana Roker, and then we talk about it.
The member opposite sat in the cabinet that built 0 homes.
None.
Not one.
None. But they killed
Not one. Not one government-built homes.
Dr. Minnis argues his government prioritized land ownership, giving Bahamians the opportunity to invest in property, build at their own pace, and create generational value.
We brought forth a law to declare all government subdivision tax-free. The second law that we were supposed to bring in place is we were going to legislate that every Bahamian, the young Bahamians especially, every Bahamian would get a piece of land free of charge within the government subdivision. If the property was worth $120,000, $140,000 and you got it free, it meant that you automatically had $120,000 equity, which meant you did not need any down payment. You met your down payment. Your only responsibility was to have a job and meet your mortgage payment.
Minnis says the policy was about empowerment, putting land back into the hands of Bahamians and keeping ownership local.
We also had architectural designs, at least 5 or 6 designs. Architectural designs cost $20,000. We were going to sell a plan to the young people. You choose whichever one you want. And we were selling that to you for $1,000. That was our plan. Now, you can sell your property. You can sell your property. But within the law, it would have distinctly declared that you can only sell the property to a Bahamian. In other words, the land must remain in the hands of Bahamian.
He pointed to Prospect Ridge as phase 1 of a broader plan targeting young professionals and first-time buyers, aimed at sparking a construction boom across the country.
We had already declared those properties were being sold at $30,000 to $40,000. Those properties were worth $160,000. You already had $120,000 equity, which meant you had to come up with nothing. Each subdivision was going to be designed in such a way that you were also going to have nursery care, preschool, so that all Bahamians again would have had opportunity for preschool education.
Minnis reaffirmed that land ownership was a key component of economic stability, opening doors for investment and long-term security.
It is a sin to see individuals owning 1,000, 3,000, 4,000 acres and you can't get 40 by 50. That is crap. You should own something in your country, and land is a creation, an opportunity for creation as wealth. You're entitled to that. Crown land is your land. It's not my land. It's the people's land. It's 2.5 million acres of crown land out there. It's your land. Let's develop it and give it to the people where it belongs.
Now, gentlemen, I do remember Dr. Minnis, when he was Prime Minister, had this wonderful sort of, I guess, display
Right down the street.
that talked about the Prospect Ridge and people and Bahamians finally having access to Western New Providence, you know, the lush life. Do the two compare?
You know, Shanique, I've always, in government homes or government housing, I've always had a little mixed feelings about it, because at the end of the day, what is considered government housing today is not cheap at all. You know, with inflation and the cost of building material, you know, it still puts out the average Bahamian, who that being we said with the poor, it's still out of our arm's reach at the end of the day. And this is where I've always been disconnected in terms of what we consider our strategy in terms of I guess giving people property is one thing. You can give them all the land in the world, but having the resources to actually develop that land, which is a lot of issues where you see a lot of the land around the Bahamas is privately owned. Outside of
New Providence.
Yeah, inside New Providence. But a lot of people do not have the resources to develop it. So at the end of the day, we can give away all the land in the world. We have to find ways that we can help whether those people who are in the poverty in what do you call them, the poverty zone or areas, how do we get them into something that they can lay their heads comfortable at night? And that's what we have not figured out yet, whether it being creating government rentals or something of that sort. Because at the end of the day, we have a lot of issues where as though somebody might step through the cracks and they get a loan for $100 and some $1,000, but by year 2, they can't afford to keep up with whatever the payments are. They can't keep up with the maintenance of the home. The place is falling apart. So it's still, to me, there's still some disconnect there. What we consider low-cost homes? Sure, it's not. But you look at it,
No, it isn't anymore. I'll tell you, Keith Bell, and I hope to have him next week because his budget debate was quite extensive and a lot of things he wants to do not only here but Grand Bahama, right, and the Family Islands. But he said, listen, they have high-end finishes now, Michael and Leslie. They have countertops, marble countertops. Like it's different. They have storm windows and all this bunch of stuff. Leslie, so quickly jump in. No, it's not low cost anymore.
Listen, the Progressive Liberal Party government policy has always been, and it started with Yellow in 1968-69, when Sir Clement T. Maynard, God bless him, was the first member of Parliament in that area. The land was always given to you free. That's why you get that big discount by saying it's a low-cost house. For example, the houses that is being built now over on Carmichael Road, you have about a beautiful 3-bedroom house that is really a fantastic house. With a big lot, it's totally fenced in, it's landscaped properly. That house would probably cost $300,000. The house is going for $200,000 because the government gave the land free to those persons who own those homes. That's always been the policy.
But it's still out of reach.
It's still out of reach. I accept that. But how do you get someone with a 3-bedroom house under that margin of funds? Because $200,000 is a lot of money. How do you qualify? Most payments are not qualified. I'll tell you what happens.
I'll tell you, gentlemen, this is why. Because a lot of people, when I remember having someone from Urban Renewal here, this was some months ago, and they talked about what's happening in housing and how home repair, and the way the people responded and reached out. So I want to do that again for you all next week, so that you learn how you can have access to homes, whether it's rent to own, wherever you fall on that. I promise you to do that for you. Also, let's continue looking at the tropics as well. Look at that again also next week.
But let me also say that approximately about 50% of the homes that are sold to those Bahamians, they end up losing it at some point with the government, because it always took you, your brother, and one sister to come up with a deposit, and you got to put your 3 salaries there to pay for this house. Then one of them get married and they move out, another one get married, you on your own, and that's how many Bahamians could not afford. They were never eligible, but we tried our best to make them eligible by getting other persons in their family to go and sign that document for them to own a home. And that's a serious problem, and it's still the same problem today.
Gentlemen, I thank you both very much. Obviously, of course, Hot Topics, Week in Review Friday discussion. So it's always exciting and always just a different look at the stories of the week. Thank you both very much. When we come back, we're going to talk about a women's conference that's happening tomorrow. Beyond the Headlines is back right after this.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay eatin' well.
So you want a space, but not just If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. I hope you're enjoying tonight's show. We're going to shift gears now and talk about, you all know, of course, once you hear the name, you will know that, listen, it's time again for the Broken No More Conference. It's a conference that happens every year here by a Bahamian, Dejanera Jun. She always brings a guest with her, and she has right here again this year. But Dejanera, of course, is Bahamian. She works and lives out of Atlanta. But again, she also works here as well. So it's just sort of this whole thing that she brings women from the United States and the Bahamas together to share, to become empowered. And obviously, as I said, to get over the hurts and the stumbles that and the blockages that life sometimes throw at you, just to be empowered to do more. I remember one year she was here and she talked about how she doesn't think it's wise for people who were once entangled or in a relationship to sort of resume that relationship or make up again. And I'm like, are you kidding, Dejanera? People always have second chances in relationships. What are you talking about? Let's see if she still feels that way. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines, Dejanera Jones. Please, Dejanera, introduce me to your guest, also from the United States.
Hi, yes. Well, thank you so much for having me, Shanique. And I do have my sister in Christ and my blood sister, Stacy Grant. She is from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Say hello, Stacy.
Hello. Stacy, it's good to have you here.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
I don't know if you were here for that conference. By the way, Stacy, what are your thoughts? Before we get into this year's conference, Dejanera, when she was here a couple of years ago for the conference, she said, Shanique, if you have broken up or if you are divorced, you need to just remain there that way and move forward. You believe that?
I think you need to go through a healing process, be healed from the brokenness, and then you can move forward into a new relationship.
So two people cannot come back together, like it cannot be restored.
Yeah, I believe that they can be restored, but again, That's counseling. You want to get counseling. You want to get, somebody that really, not biased, to have these conversations with and see, what you can work out as far as coming back together.
Yeah, it's important, regardless of whether you decide to maybe re-engage with someone, whatever you do, remarry, whatever. The point is, though, there must be two whole people coming together to make things happen so that you're happier moving forward and you really have this wonderful relationship that we all desire, right?
Yeah.
But ladies, of course, this year is a whole different focus. There's a lot on tap, a lot's happening. DeGeneres, again, it's good to see you. Welcome back to the show. Let's talk about Broken No More 2025.
Yes, Broken No More 2025. We are reaching women that has been hurt, past hurts, that has been divorced, that has been separated, and women that is really hurting in silence. For I know many years and many women that I have come in contact with, they have no one to reach out to talk to help in their brokenness, help in their silence. And really and truly, they are being silent because of all the pain that they're going through. And so this year at the conference, the theme, Broken No More, we are here to say to you, you no longer have to hurt in silence. You no longer have to remain hurt, remain broken. But God can heal, God can bring healing, can bring restoration in your brokenness so that you can move forward.
This has been the overriding theme every year, even though the focus is different, but this sort of like, listen, you can mend again, you can heal, you become this beautiful whole woman moving forward. What has the response been from the women in the Bahamas?
Oh man, we have registrations. We are almost locked out of registrations. And not only, the response has been really, really amazing because right now I facilitate a women's Bible study via Zoom and also a prayer call every Friday morning. And the women has been coming out, that's been turning out. And I also disciple young women, and I have actually been discipling 3 of our teenage girls here in the Bahamas. That one is just graduated from high school and 2 that's still in high school. And when I tell you the transformation that's been happening in their life has been, overwhelming and transformative. I have 2 of them that is going to be baptized tomorrow morning. And so God is really moving in the lives of women and young women I see here.
Yeah, really awesome. Women are everywhere, really, are hungry, Stacey, for just to kind of get what it is that they need to be empowered, to be enriched, to be whole women and move forward and attract all that they desire.
Yes. I truly believe in sisterhood. I truly believe in being my sister's keeper. So with these women, we make time for these women. We mentor these women. Phone numbers, we give them the phone numbers, and we are talking to these women directly. Like, listen, call us. You need someone to talk to, call, and we will make time for you. And DeGeneres also mentioned that we just started a prayer call. And I am the host for the prayer call. And listen, amazing, amazing. These women are engaging and they're being a part. And once again, it's not only here in the Bahamas, but we have women that are all platforms. They're on all of our platforms from all over. So I thank God for that.
It's really great. Just bringing women together is nothing more powerful than women with a single focused and to go and obviously make an impact wherever they are. So let's look at the focuses. Or what the focus will be, several things and several prongs this year to rebuild a woman, learning how to rebuild her identity in Christ, no longer defined by the pain that she's gone through, but standing on God's promises. Let's talk about that, because a woman who was hurt, and I imagine you mean hurt through, relationship or anything really that can hurt a woman, but mainly obviously the relationship that's not worked out. And sometimes a woman has her identity tied up in that. How is this conference going to help her address that and walk away healed so that she is poised to stand on God's promises for her life?
Well, first of all, we are having testimony segments and that we have a young lady that's going to be talking about her own personal testimony of her and what God has brought her through. And in that way, I'm certainly the women there will be touched and rejuvenated. But not only that, a lot of us, we lose our self-worth. when we find ourselves moving away or not having the relationship that we thought we would have had, especially for persons that were married and going through divorces. We're not hurt about the divorce, but we're hurt about what we thought or what we anticipated that divorce would have been. And so that cost us, to lose who we are. And so we, coming back, trying to help them to understand that, listen, your divorce, that doesn't define who you are. You're not having that forever after that you thought, your life would have been. That's not the end, right? But you can find your identity in knowing who God is and understanding who He is, the death, the resurrection, that He had died for you and that He loves you with unconditional love.
Yeah, let's talk about, Stacey, you want to add anything to that?
Not at this time.
Well, let's just move on, because you're also teaching women how to overcome fear and discouragement through biblical strategies and principles towards a victorious life.
God says that He's not given us a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of a sound mind. And so just encouraging them, listen, if you fall, you can get back up. You don't have to be afraid that, hey, I have failed. Because many people believe that I have failed if I have failed. I have failed if I have not accomplished something that I put out there to accomplish, or I've not accomplished my goal, and so I've failed. If a child fell down, Shanique, and get a bruise, they might cry for a minute, but they get up. And they either run to their mummies or run to their parents, but they get up. They don't stay on the ground and stay down there. And so just as that child gets up, we're saying to you, you can get up. You don't have to stay there in your failure. You don't have to stay there because you have not reached what you thought was your goal. Maybe that's not what God had designed for you, but you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to be afraid to move on. And for many of us, we're afraid to move on, but you don't have to be afraid to move on.
Stacey, so many women, again, these stumbling blocks, and you stumble, whether it's family hurt, whether it's maybe the job that you so loved and somehow you were dismissed, or just having an issue on the job with your coworkers, or again, the home life, And so women find themselves shame and having self-doubt and hurt. How do they walk through this? Because that's another focus, teaching them and giving them those nuggets that they can walk through that, through when these things may happen, that they do not become again stuck there.
Yes, I believe in transparency. First of all, I am transparent about my story and what I've went through, and I also leave that door open for them to also be transparent, because the only way they can be healed is if they talk about it. If they continue to keep what they have faced and the struggles that they're having on the inside of them and to themselves, the healing is not going to happen. But if they would be transparent to that person that they feel comfortable talking to, that's where the healing will take place. Being transparent.
Ladies, speak on the fact that healing is a journey and not a destination. I want to hear each of your interpretation of that. Any moment.
Oh, you gotta go first. Go ahead. Many times it's like, we're traveling, you decide that you're going to go to a destination. And for many of us, we think that, okay, it's gonna take 2 hours to get from the Bahamas to Atlanta, right? But in that process of our healing, even though it says 2 hours, sometimes we have roadblocks, sometimes we have sidetracks. So it doesn't automatically mean, sometimes the flight is delayed. And so that journey from the Bahamas to Atlanta, it is not going to be instant. It's not going to happen as you thought it would happen for many of us. But it is a time, it's a journey, meaning that timing is everything with God. It doesn't happen as you want it to happen, but in its right time. But you have to continue to trust in God's timing for your healing, and just how we trust on that airplane to take us from one point to the next point. We have to trust God and believe that God is able to bring us back to wholeness.
Amen. Just know that your timing, our timing, is not God's timing. God's timing, listen, it can be, that healing process can be 10 years from now for some people. But I say don't lose hope, don't give up, keep trying to find that outlet that will help you in that process of healing. Okay, God's ways is higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And I encourage you women to, just don't stay in the same place that you're in. Also, there's something that I wanted to say. Let's be, don't do life alone. There you go. Don't do life alone. Too many times we try to figure it out on our own. Don't do life alone.
Go into that shell and stay there and whatever. But listen, give us some more information about the Broken No More conference, the location, the times, and that anything we need to know.
Okay, so the conference is gonna be held at Zion South Beach. That's on Zion Boulevard. That's tomorrow, June 21st, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so just come on, listen, I believe that God is going to be there. He's going to meet us there. And we're gonna have a powerful, impactful time. We have our speakers. We have Sister Tanya Miller, and she's from the Calvary Church in Centerville. We also have Albertha Rowe. Listen, we are going to have an impactful time. Minister Tamiko, and she is an educator and a woman, a mighty, mighty woman of God that is going to bring transformation to your life. So come on and join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Zion Baptist Church, Zion South Beach.
Thank you both. Thank you both very much, DeJaneira Jones and Stacia. Your last name escapes me. Grant. Thank you both very much, and good luck with tomorrow's conference. Again, Broken No More, starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. A good place to hang out for a few hours.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in all week long and for hanging out. We certainly enjoyed having you here. And I look forward to seeing you right back here on Monday evening for the entire Beyond the Headlines team. I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a blessed weekend, everyone.